Howdy folks, welcome to another edition of the Scannell Agenda. My name's Steve Scannell, and this is show number 100. Whoopee! The show nobody watches. That's too bad. Get your boots on. That was the last show. And this show is entitled BULLDOGGY, first edition, 1995. And this is the BULLDOGGY, first edition, 1995 here. And I'd like to thank my friend Scott Findell, who was a marine biologist at the Nantucket Marine Laboratory, for helping me get this produced. He understood, how to do things on the computer. That was a long time ago, 1995, many years ago. I think I had left off on page, I've discussed some of this before. I think I left off on page 8, which is the chapter on the habitat seafood factory. So I'll just outline what chapters came before that. Introducing the market quota system is chapter 1. And in quotes, let's take good care of the ocean. And the next chapter is on page 3, the economic value of seafood. The ocean is like a giant gold mine. And then page 5, better days are coming with the market quota system, and that's about managing the ocean for productivity. And the habitat, the seafood factory, overwhelming habitat destruction, that's where I left off. And I'll go chapter by chapter. When I wrote this, I was bedridden, and some of that time was in a wheelchair because I had developed something called writer's syndrome. So I didn't have anything else to do, but I had to do some work, so we had a computer, an old Gold Star computer at the time on Nantucket. I think we were living at 14 Myacomet Ave back then. And so I was into doing this system here. So I had time on my hands, and I think it's God's way, because I don't know if I would have done this and really gotten into it if I didn't have time on my hands, because I was a laborer and a weed puller and a painter and a digger and hard worker, fisherman. So and when you come home from work and you've been digging all day under houses, was a construction digger, you're pretty tired, especially if you have a couple kids to bounce around too. Okay. The logical objective, assuming the fisheries manager is aiming toward productivity, is good science. Good science logically dictates that the equation of biomass to productive long-term seafood harvesting capacity be recognized and adhered to in fisheries management decisions. So good science. They were always talking about good science. So I had chimed in on that. Good scientific species micromanagement and habitat destruction has bankrupt the fisheries. Good science is the requisite foundation to productivity. And I might add, being that I am an economist, an amateur economist, I'm published in economics, public resource economics, and I presented. And a lot of people said I did good work. a lot of these educated people. What's been missing in fisheries has been the economics as a base. Now, in this country, we all recognize the free enterprise system, but somehow that got just thrown out the window, and that we wanted a club, a small club of these rights-holding fishermen, and they somehow would manage to be, you know, working it all out for us all. It's ridiculous, but that was kind of the thinking. It was a somehow Hail Mary pass that didn't work out. Didn't work out for the public. Okay, it worked out, but it didn't work out for the public, and it didn't work out for Mother Nature. But for some fishermen, they really cashed in, and that is where it actually did work out. But if you were a banker, as I've often said, if you were a banker or an accountant or a businessman, and you were working for the public in the area of fisheries, your foundation would probably be this market quota system. So the logical objective, it says here, assuming the fisheries manager is aiming toward productivity, which is a misapprehension if you're assuming that, because people are paid to do what they're paid to do. They're not paid to be saints in public service, working for the public. They're paid to do what they're told to do. And in fisheries especially, that's true. People in fisheries are told to do this nasty job of basically doing the dirty work of fishermen is what it's all about. National Marine Fisheries Service, basically that's what they do. And the fishermen want what they want, and the government is working for them rather than for the public. And it's a dirty business because there happens to be two balance sheets. There's a public balance sheet and a private balance sheet. So it's not the first time the USA was working for the private balance sheet and getting off the track. We do have a public balance sheet with fisheries. And the world has a public balance sheet, and every town that has a scallop in it has a public balance sheet. Okay, so to assume the fisheries manager is somehow aiming toward productivity, aiming toward good science, what they're paid to do is what they're paid to do. And it's not that they're paid to be the hero of fisheries production. They're paid to do this nasty job of favoring the existing fishermen. So that's been that way for decades now. So that can be changed if you want it to change. Okay, at one time the draggers were catching so much that the markets were glutted with fish. The story that I tell is that in the 20s and 30s, draggers would come in with a boatload of fish, loaded with fish, iced down fish. And the deal would be if they could get more than a penny a pound, they'd unload. If not, they would just steam out in a huff and dump the catch. And then they'd fill the boat again and try the market again. Try the market again. That was the expression used. So back then, the draggers would have to split the net open, cut it with a knife, and dump fish out if the net overfilled with fish. That was a problem. You didn't want to tow too long, or you'd fill the net to overflowing, and that would be a big hassle. You didn't want that. All right. Occasionally, the draggers refused to sell their catch for half a cent or cent a pound, so they would steam back out, dump the fish overboard, and load the boat up again. If they were lucky, they would get a good price. The habitat is the staff of life. the foundation, the beginning, the middle, and the end. No amount of technical expertise in the area of micromanagement will serve to help us if we are oblivious to the obvious environmental facts of life. We have sold our topsoil and eaten our seed corn. Our future road will be paved with hard sacrifice if we are going to again have a bountiful ocean. All right, so this was 1995, and we knew this back then. And nothing much has changed. They say they can really manage scallops well. Right now, scallop management is like, you bow down to that, but I disagree. Number one, we're losing our bay scallop fishery, and here's an article I was looking through this, because there's an article on the pond issue in here, and this is National Fisherman, July 1991, and this is bay scalloping fills a niche, and it's an old article. Okay. So this was by, okay. Anyway, it just goes into bay scalloping. Well, back then there were some scallops around. I don't know why I'm yammering on. Stick with the knitting here. But that's, again, there's just no amount of science is going to fix us if we're stupid. As they say, you can't fix stupid. Maybe they were talking to me because I'm stupid enough to think we can fix this. That's how stupid I am. But I have been told so many times, what are you thinking of? Are the fishermen going to like this? This system you got? Are the fishermen going to like this? Or as if to say, are you stupid or something? I mean, come on. Get your boots on. Get your boots on, man. This is deep. Listen, he's talking about something fishermen don't even like it. It's kind of, he's out there, right? Out there. Okay. The next chapter here in this book, if I may call it a book, BULLDOGGY, first edition, 1995, The Farm, the Sea Farm. A good farmer will make investments in his capital base. See, we're not farmers, obviously, right? We're fishermen, and we go out and go fishing. We don't go out and, tend to whatever it is a farmer would tend to. The ocean is public property. It could be thought of as a very poorly run farm. Citizens of America are the owners of the farm. When there is a basic lack of insight, there is nothing as enlightening as an analogy. Jesus was very big on it. People are just so unreasoningly stupid for some reason when they contact saltwater issues. People seem to grapple with land issues pretty well. The salt water generally seems to sap people of their confidence to reason. It has something to do with subordination. I think that's true. We had that on the pond issue on Nantucket. And in the final analysis, a lot of the freshwater people who were pond killers that wanted the salt ponds turned into freshwater ponds. Somehow this would be just like, for them, like some kind of paradise then, because they didn't know anything about salt water. So, anyway. So it makes sense maybe for you to defer. I guess that's how it's been for decades and decades, because you're not a saltwater person. But the basic economics of giving away such assets is pretty bad stuff. Okay, imagine for the sake of analogy that your family has suddenly inherited, quite unexpectedly, a farm. But not just as any normal, regular farm. This is a farm that your family has inherited. It is huge and sprawling. It is diversified and decentralized, covering many, many square miles. It is as big as North and South Dakota combined. You are very, very happy to own a new asset, but the asset is very, very in bad shape. You wonder how the farm could have possibly been run any further into the ground. Your kind Uncle Sam, was not a good manager at all. He was a nice guy. May he rest in peace. This is stupid writing. 1995. I was a lot younger. That's okay. You and your family have taken a 2-month survey of the farm. After many meetings and discussions with the farm hands and managers, you have come to a conclusion. The definite and inescapable conclusion is this: your new farm will continue to deteriorate unless and until a major structural changes are made in the management and personnel of the farm. You own the farm, and the decisions are yours to make. The farm hands, this is all about deference. And me, I'm trying to wake people up to this deference thing. And I'm still trying to wake people up to this deference thing, and it's been since a long time I've been doing this. You own the farm, and the decisions are yours to make. The farm hands do not own the farm, and it shows. You own the farm, and the responsibility is yours. You own the farm, and the ball is in your court. You own the farm. You own the farm. You own the farm. What a shame that you don't know that. And I'm trying to get this through into your thick skulls that you own this sea farm here. And it's not the pickers that own the farm, but you've given it to the pickers so that they can own the farm, and that you thought somehow these pickers would be able to manage, but they don't know the first thing. It's like the dog chasing the car. Dog catches the car. What does it do? It doesn't know what to do, of course. Okay. You are a United States citizen. Think of yourself as the farm owner. You don't own a normal type farm. Your farm has to do with aquaculture. You own the ocean. You own all the ocean, almost. It is the biggest farm in the world. It is your sea farm. A farm has a capital base. So does our common sea farm, the ocean. A farm's capital base can be such things as good soil, farm equipment, buildings, the size and location of real estate, and of course the human resource. The farmer owns the farm and is responsible for its management. A good farmer will make investments in his capital base. This investment increases the farm's productivity capacity and market value. A good farm will yield a good long-term financial return and lots of pride. So how does it feel that you gave away the ocean to these fishermen? There's just a few of them. How do you feel? Good? Feel good? You shouldn't. It's a terrible thing you did. I wasn't part of that, so I'm not putting it on me. I've been trying to stop this silliness for years. And I would say that the Cape Cod Times is on board with the silliness. And the Nantucket Enquirer and Mirror. Most of these big corporate newspapers, it's been said that they peddle a lot of junk news, junk food news. I've called it the cheese food. But so if you want to make excuses, the best excuses, I don't know. No one ever told me. You know, I read the paper, but no one ever told me I was wrong. That's your best shot, to blame it on the newspaper. The publicly owned ocean or sea farm has a capital base that has been almost completely disregarded by the managers of the ocean. Public ownership has been forfeited to the commercial fishermen. The publicly owned sea farm has a public and private infrastructure or capital base. Fishing boats harvest. Coast Guard boats rescue. Docks and shore facilities of all kinds are in place. There are a few scattered private aquaculture operations. The public aquaculture operations are rare and very tiny in scale. People are there to achieve high goals. They have good training, high level of accomplishment, and solid morals. I think I'm referring to the public aquaculture people of the Milford Marine Laboratory. That's a National Marine Fisheries Service at Milford, Aquaculture Labs. I really loved those guys. Okay, the capital base of the sea is similar to that of the farm. The soil on the farm can be compared to the habitat on the floor of the ocean. Good soil will yield a big crop of corn or tomatoes. Good habitat on the floor of the ocean will yield a steady tonnage of seafood. Another benefit to the good habitat approach is the high efficiency of harvesting the seafood. More habitat equals more fish density. More fish density means less harvesting effort per ton. The farmer has topsoil. The fisherman has habitat. If the farmer's soil is good, he will do well. If the fisherman's habitat is good, he will have fish. The farmer can exhaust his soil with chemicals, but gaining in the near-term profit. The fisherman can exhaust the habitat with destructive scraping fishing methods, but also gaining in the near-term profit. The difference is that the farmer owns his soil. It is private property. The fisherman, on the other hand, does not own the ocean habitat. It is public property. The ocean has a capital base, but unlike the farm, the ocean is, in actuality, a sort of free territory without a real owner. Commercial fishermen have been blessed by the public with a squatter's rights type of informal ownership. The problem with this is that the fishermen's short-term motives conflict with the public interest, the common good. Financially sound and logical long-term public resource management strategies would have to include investment in the ocean's capital base. We are currently allowing the farmhands to take home all of the profits. Worse still, we have allowed the farmhands to sell the topsoil. Thus, we have devalued the ocean's capital base by way of making little or no investment in it. It's a shame, but that's our philosophy, and it wouldn't take much to turn that around. I know I did a show on codium not too long ago. Codium isn't specific to Harwich, but I couldn't find any eelgrass or any scallops washed up or at all. So regular and routine thinning out of the codium would be the thing to do over the years, but we never have done that. Okay, get going here. How can we accurately describe the management of the ocean or our common sea farm today? Are we happy? Is everything cool? As a responsible sea farm owner, manager, will you want to maximize productivity and profits? Will your basic approach be a business-like management style? Will you want to guard your assets and invest in the capital base of your farm? Or will you continue to let the pickers run the show? You own the farm. It is clear that a farm is a privately owned business enterprise. What kind of an enterprise will your sea farm be? When you look out onto the horizon of the sea, do you envision further failure and confusion? Do you look out and see your world, or do you capitulate? It's easier to capitulate and just go along with the two parties maybe in favor of, satisfying the fishermen. I think that's the case. The two parties are rather unimpressive on fisheries over the decades. A simple list of principles. This is a new chapter. On page 13, a simple list of principles underlying the market quota system. Believe in Mother Nature's own system. Number 1, mankind has a primary stewardship responsibility to the ocean and to the land and to the whole earth. The first principle is one that everybody seems agreeable to. Living up to stewardship is quite different than stating a belief in it, though. To me, stewardship means cultivating the ocean to its own naturally good health. We can reap tremendous seafood production if we believe in Mother Nature's own system. The ocean and the land are one. We cannot have a good ocean with dirty air and land. Okay, number 2, the public should control the ocean. Citizens of a town should control their own small area. Citizens of a nation should control out to 200 miles. Citizens of the Citizens of the global community of nations should control the international waters. And this is where we want to get into the United Nations and get into market quota sea farm systems using the United Nations. I would say push it on 3 levels: local, federal, and international. Push this sea farm system. I'm going to let go right there. So it says, lacking a public control, the ocean will and does fall prey to greedy pirate fishermen who care only about money. Well, that's it for the Scannell agenda. Thanks very much.